The Antidote to Tyranny. This is the most explosive subject in the world, I believe, and the ramifications are mind-blowing. This discovery will make you question everything you have ever known. The fallout is enough to bring down every government and worldwide organisation that believe they have the right to keep you in lockstep and locked down. The only authority they have is the authority you allow them to have, and therefore, once the majority understand that this minority have no right to decide how you live or die, then they lose control, the control they have flexed and shown predominantly since 2020. And there is an interesting number. 2020 vision is how perfect and clear vision is described. And in 2020, there was so much mud thrown into the mix that many didn't see what was going on. But equally, there were many whose sight was far from being obscured by the mud, decided to understand what formed the mud and why so much of it was being thrown. And of course, there were a number of people that saw the mud long before it had even started being mixed. So, for those of you with newly acquired 2020 vision, and for those still wiping the mud away, please join us in a journey that may be hard to believe at first, but will ultimately set us all free from tyranny. In this series of videos, I will be graphically explaining Graham K. Griffiths' 2003 book, Behold Jerusalem, as well as exploring his concepts and conclusions and how this fits into my own observations and beliefs and helps clear away the mud. I previously published Graham's book in its entirety and unedited, but without much visualization, only using his published pictures and words. Although I did not agree with much of what he was saying aside from the evidence of the landscape, I knew that this evidence was vital to our journey to freedom. Since then, I have redrawn his evidence while identifying some details he either missed or didn't fully appreciate. And as his text requested of me, I have found more of the wonderful place names and clues that show us we are not the first to have seen or know about his findings. Although we may be the generation that finally realizes what the whole thing is and its implications for our lives today. I believe that what I am about to show you has not appeared by accident, by divine intervention, or that it's purely coincidence, but that it is by intelligent design, very intelligent design in point of fact. I will also be showing some of the not so coincidental geological features. I will be exploring some of the possible explanations for its existence and trying to answer the question of why they went to so much effort. I have drawn upon many sources of information and have credited those sources wherever possible so that the truth can be checked by everyone for themselves. My feelings are that these findings should be freely and widely available to everyone, especially as the ramifications of what I have seen are literally world-shattering, but only if the majority of people see it and understand its truth. And I shall repeat my own words that I included in all my Starfort series of videos, a statement based upon Mark Moss's statement that he quotes in most of his educational videos on finance and world economics. I am making these videos to change the way you think, because almost everything you have been taught was designed to program you to stop thinking critically and accept everything you are told as truth without question. Many of us with newly acquired 2020 vision have started to question our surroundings, the wider world around us, his story, taught knowledge, and our place within our environment. How ironic many of us had to suffer 2020 to have our eyes opened to the wider subjects. Many are transitioning from being lost within a subservient herd to becoming extraordinary individuals that we all are, but never realised our true or fullest potential. My videos, to paraphrase Mark Moss once more, are not to wake the sheep, but the sleeping lions. I need to also thank those that I now call friends, that I meet on a regular basis, for all their support and input, as well as my online friends who offer support and encouragement. Everyone's ascension to self-sovereignty is as individual as our awakening, and it is not simultaneous, but our paths do cross on our unique modern-day crusade against tyranny in all its forms. I feel that this remarkable landscape of Albion has stood the test of time, standing witness to the lies and deception around it and played out on its own shores daily for millennia. Its truth is literally set in stone, so vast that even large-scale destruction would hardly alter its appearance. If we consider only the controlled and censored evidence we are shown of the past, we can easily be misled or misdirected. If, for example, there were only 7 copies of a particular book, how easy would it be to rewrite or edit it to hide the truth and meaning, especially if that book was used to form the basis of knowledge of a particular subject? If these 7 copies were transcribed by hand every generation, then like a game of Chinese whispers, the latest edition might bear no resemblance to the original, and once again, how easy it would be to alter its origin, its original meaning, or even its setting. With the use of hot metal printing presses, we might assume a book is now finalised, but with every new edition or print run, it can be altered, assuming the original text was correct on the first print run. So even the printed word cannot be assumed to be true to its origins. Even when it comes to something set in stone, we cannot assume it is the original form, as a skilled mason might be able to alter it and change its appearance or meaning. But as I said, with the landscape of Britain, we can only assume it is the truth of its creator at a particular point in time, and unrivaled in its ability to not be dramatically rewritten. So we now have a few questions to consider as we set off on our voyage around the coastline and landscape of Albion. When was it designed and modelled? Who designed it? What is its meaning? And how can this knowledge help us on our individual or collective journeys? Unfortunately, you and I may have to wait for some of these truths to be revealed to us, but simply seeing and accepting the truth and acknowledging it is another step on our journey. So let's start with the coastline. It is not whimsical fantasy and cannot be denied, although many tell me I am just seeing what I want to see, and that it's just random formation of the landscape. In response to this, I ask you to consider Anglesey, and I am going to only use the coastline here. No fanciful artistic lines will be added, only the coastline contours and rivers. although you might argue that these could be man-made, and then you would be supporting my fundamental argument. Man-made, manipulated, or are you saying it's simply a random freak of nature? Unfortunately, as I am about to show you, the random or natural formation argument will fall at the first hurdle as I present the evidence. So, let's start with Holy Island, that some of you may know as Holyhead, which is actually the port on the island. And let's trace a line around that. And you can see that this just looks like some random shape. And so then let me present you now with an Egyptian death mask. I believe this one was Tutankhamun, where we have a snake and an eagle or a buzzard or whatever you want, phoenix, whatever you want to call it. The snake is representative of the king of the north. The bird is representative of the king of the south. So the king of the north mask or crown has the asp on it, the snake, and this is king of the north. And so this is a stylized one that you can find on eBay if you want to buy one. And let's just zoom in to the shape there, and we see the snake curves. It curves. It's a king cobra type snake as well, so it's got a bit of width to it if you get the right angle. And so then let's go back now and look at the actual map and the outline, and let me overlay now that golden curvy snake that we just saw. And that's what I'm saying I see. Now you're going to tell me that that's not right, but the snake's got a hat on it. And on another Egyptian depiction, we can see this snake has actually got a crown on it. So let me just overlay that onto the map again, onto the outline. And there you go. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a snake with a crown on the top. It's not necessarily exactly that crown, but that's what I'm seeing in that depiction of Holy Island on the face of Anglesey. So now let's pull in Anglesey itself, the map, and we'll add my outline I did for Holy Island and why I called it the face of Anglesey. And there's the outline of Anglesey as well. Now, if we now pull in, and I'll show you now, this is the king of the north. The actual snake crown is not reserved for kings and pharaohs. It was also given to deities and gods. So anyway, that's by the by. So if I put this now, this face at the correct angle for you, for angle C, and you will see the angle now. If I pull in the map and then reduce the visual of the king, and you see that we're now looking extremely similar to the face. In fact, that's what I'm saying it is. That is the face of Anglesey with the snake crown on the top. But it doesn't stop there. And if we now pull back and include the North Wales, we can see that we've got the crown, the face, and we've got an arm. And then we have the peculiarity of Bardsey Island at the end of the arm, and it's pointing to it. Now, what's the significance of this? Well, Bardsey Island here looks like a sprouting or germinating seed of wheat, as shown in Graham's book, and he shows the similarities between several other things, although he misses the obvious wheat. And I'll come back to wheat and just pull back now and show you the rest of the coastline down to this point here. And so far, all I've used is coastline. Now I'm going to just trace a couple of rivers down South Wales, and there we go. I'll just make that line a little thicker, and we now have a clog or a foot. And then we'll pull back a little bit further, right back now. Now I'm going to jump ahead and just basically put in the next symbol below the foot, as it were. And I'm just going to use a tracing of Graham's drawing and put that in. And we now have a lion or a dog. I will come back to that one in a bit as well. And then put the lines I've just done on top of that. And we now have this person with the crown and the head and the arm, and the foot is resting on the back of the lion dog. Now, this again, to me, shows intelligence and not just random seeing things. Because if we go back about 4,300 years, we find Inanna, the Queen of the Heavens from the Akkad period, back in Samaria. This is from a circular seal, and look at the position. Also, the snake crown is actually associated with Samaria as well as Egypt, and again, the crowning of the deities, the gods, this one being the Queen of the Heavens. She was also I believe she was the goddess of fertility, of wheat, of the harvest, fertility, did I say that? There's beer, bread, there was a lot of things. So for me, there's too much of a coincidence, the head is in the right proportion, the snake head, the crown is the right proportion, the arm is the right proportion, the length of the body becomes the right proportion, the fact that then the foot is resting on the beast, it just matches up with this Sumerian image. Now, this is far too much coincidence. In fact, it's far too much to be a coincidence. It's far too much to be of natural origin. It's far too much you can't say this is pareidolia. You cannot say that. We're not just seeing faces in random objects. We are seeing a formed figure, and formed two figures, in fact, here so far. And as I say, we will be seeing another 10 fully formed figures, and we will be finding an invisible figure. And I'll come to that. But just before I leave this video, when I was researching the coastline being man-made or manipulated or whatever you want to call it, by design, I initially looked at if there was design, if there was intelligence, then we should be looking for something intelligent in there. And so I looked for a 3-4-5 triangle, where you have the right angle triangle, you have 3 or 4 on the base, and then the opposing number is on the opposite right angled, and then the hypotenuse, the long length, becomes the length of 5, a multiple of 5. And I actually found an article on the street, which I'll just check my details here. Whitstable, sorry, in near Canterbury. On the coast there is a causeway to nowhere, and it's called the Street, and it's apparently the straight line to Street End in Canterbury, and passing through lots of churches, a straight line. But I was reading a little article, and someone was saying that it was possibly on the line of magnetic north at the time, and wasn't this strange kind of thing. And then they started talking about angles and how possibly we're referred to as the angles, and then basically saying that England was basically a gigantic triangle. And I remembered then that my science teacher, 40 years ago, he was my science teacher, he was my geography teacher, he was my form tutor as well. And when he was doing geography, he had a very quick way of drawing England. So he'd draw it on the board, and he'd draw a triangle. And when I first saw him do that 40 years ago, as I say, I laughed and I thought, yeah, he's right. Simplistic, but it's right. It's a triangle. And it's not far off the 3, 4, 5 triangle. It's not spot on, but it's not far off. I might have the wrong coordinates. I might have the wrong positioning on it. Who knows where where the points could be or should be, but it lines up with the coast on like the north coast, on the North Sea, the Yorkshire coast there. It becomes a very straight line, which we come back to later, probably at the end of this series, how straight that coast is when you look from a distance. You know, when you really step back, and you have to really step back to see this, or you have to be looking on a map, and on the map there's a straight line. And as I say, well, as they say, in fact, there's no straight lines in nature. There's no squares, there's no right-angled corners in nature. Well, there are, but there aren't. Anyway, so yes. Oh, so the guy talking about the street, the causeway, was saying how we live on a triangle, and we were known as the Angles and Angleland, and in fact the French Angleterre. You know, we're still on the angle, which I thought was very interesting point of view, and I just thought I'd include that here. So in my next video, I'm going to be looking at more pareidolia or not, more coincidence or not, and we're going to explore the questions that I asked earlier. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to make sure you get notified of the next videos, and there are another number of other videos coming up on a few different subjects that I'm sure you will like. Thank you.